people here to discuss it with me is Anushay Hussain, editor and founder of the blog Anushay's Point. Anushay, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, this isn't the first time that we've seen pictures like this. I think everyone remembers the iconic photo of National Geographic from the 1980s, also of a beautiful young Afghan woman with those piercing green eyes. No one would ever forget it, but come on. I mean, we're not there to liberate the women of Afghanistan. This is not what this war is about. So why do you think the media, these magazines, why do they continue to do this?
Well, I think it's really interesting that you just said we're not there to liberate Afghan women, because if you remember, this is not the first time that we've seen the plight of Afghan women being employed as a very successful emotional tool. Right before the U.S. actually invaded Afghanistan, the plight of Afghan women was deployed as a really successful emotional tool to actually garner support for the invasion. And if you remember, it was all about the U.S. going into Afghanistan to liberate the women of Afghanistan, to lift the veil, to remove the veil, what's behind the veil. So it's very interesting now, 8 years later, that when the support for this war is really at an all-time low, once again we're seeing the deployment of the plight of Afghan women being used to kind of remind the American public why we're supposedly there.
Yeah, we care about the people there. You know, it's funny because even before WikiLeaks, before the leak of all of these documents, they had leaked the plan by the CIA of how to convince the European public, whose support has been dwindling for this war, how to convince them to still care about it and feel that they're fighting for a worthy cause. And, you know, also there it said that they're specifically the French they were targeting to use women for. But, I mean, do you think this is exploitation? This is a horrible story. This is really tragic what happened to her, but is she being completely exploited here?
Well, I think that she is being exploited, and I think this entire cause is being exploited. But at the same time, this is real. This girl is a real girl. The story of hers is a real story, and atrocities like this are happening to Afghan women every single day. And I think that the question that this Time magazine cover asks is a really important question, and I think it deserves to be answered. But at the same time, it's important to remember that this happened while the U.S. was there. This didn't happen in the early 1990s. This happened now while the U.S. presence in Afghanistan is still very much a real presence. So I think it's a reminder, it's important because it puts women back at the discussion table. It puts the issue of Afghan women, you know, front and center in the minds of American public. But at the same time, it's important to remember that over the course of this war, women have gone down in the agenda when it comes to U.S. policy on Afghanistan, when they should be at the top.
Well, I mean, these things happened before the U.S. went to Afghanistan. This happened while the U.S. is currently there. So, you know, could this happen if the U.S. leaves Afghanistan? Yes. You know, this probably will happen again. But I just don't know. I mean, are people really convinced? Does this really make them, you know, support the war again and feel like their country is there fighting for a worthy cause?
Well,
why is this allowed, and yet we're not allowed to show pictures of dead soldiers, or at least we weren't for such a long time?
Well, I think what you said is really true, but at the same time, this is a tried and true tactic. It really pulls at people's hearts when they see something like this. But I think it's important.
So isn't that exploitation if they're using, and come on, these girls for the most part are attractive girls, you know, I mean, these are pretty pictures. Had they picked some, I'm sorry to say, you know, I gotta be honest, had they picked an unattractive Afghan girl and not, you know, dolled her up and done her hair nicely for the photo shoot, would it pull at the heartstrings the same way?
I don't think it's about being an attractive image. I think it's about being a powerful image. But I think what's important is if we're going to exploit this cause, while we're there, let's try to do something about it. Let's try to make good on all those promises that we made to Afghan women instead of continuously exploiting them and just bringing out their cause when it's convenient for us.
Well, yeah, and that's something that I think happens time and time again in any wars. Women are used as this pawn, as, you know, a part of the population that needs to be helped, but then we can forget about them for a while, and then when we need support again, we might start playing it up again. You know, this, you said this is about the power of the image. Also, it's about shock value, obviously. Do you think people are still affected by things like this, by these pictures?
I think so, and I think that the conversation in the media has been really interesting because a lot of people are saying, oh, what will happen? I mean, this question almost makes you think that if the U.S. leaves Afghanistan, this is what's going to happen to Afghan women. But I think what's more important to focus on is that this is happening while we're there. So we have to bring the focus back to Afghan women, because I think up until now what the U.S. has done is just given a lot of lip service to Afghan women. This plight is real. What is happening to Afghan women in terms of violence against them, I think the statistic is about 75% approximately of Afghan women that experience violence every single day in their homes. So I think the issue is real, so we should have it an honest discussion about it.
It's an important issue, and it shouldn't say what happens if we leave, but this is happening right now. Anashay, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.